take them. Okay. Next, wait for reinforcements!
Oh, I've missed that jingle. I really have.
Oh, good.
Hello, everyone, and welcome aboard to another Star Wars Toy Talk and live chat. We have I think I said it last time, the stream we did before was probably our biggest, girthiest, most substantial stream. But we have a hell of a lot of stuff to go through today, ladies and gents. So I hope you're all in it for the long haul. We do, of course, have a merry band of misfit rebels tonight. We do, of course, have Daniel East 1000 and RoboQuiff Collects in the house, as always. How you doing, gents?
Oh, well, lovely as always. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're all right.
Happy days. And we are joined by a fourth talking head tonight. So may I introduce, if you don't already know this guy, then crawl out from under that rock you've been living in, because I think pretty much, especially over recent months, every toy collector on Instagram has to be familiar with this guy. We are joined by the legendary toy photographer, Mr. Stormtrooper Davis. How are you doing, Alex? Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening.
Yeah, that's all right. I'm all good. How are you all guys?
Living the dream, mate. Living the dream.
Yeah.
Following the technical difficulties that we had, but we're all good. We're all sorted. We are, of course, all here tonight to talk a little bit about Star Wars Rebels. And if you've been tuning into these streams for a while, then you know the basic premise of these wish lists. It is basically a pitch from each of us for our favourite characters that we would like to see in the Black Series or the Vintage Collection. It can be adapted, but primarily we are Black Series collectors, at least myself, James, and Dan are. Alex, I know you definitely dabble in Black Series, but where does your collection focus? Where is your collecting focus? Is it with Black Series 6-inch, or is it a little bit of everything, or
it's Black Series. Yeah. As a kid, I had like the smaller figures, but then when the Black Series came out, that was it. Although for the past year, I've started to bring back the Vintage Collection, bringing that into my collection now. So, but Black Series is the one.
Good stuff. We made the right decision getting you on here, then, didn't we? Because I don't know how many of these you've tuned into, Alex, but we do tend to, in jest and in good faith, we do tend to give TVC a bit of a hard time, but it's all in good fun.
I've caught a fair few. It's a good one to listen to when you're editing photos after a shoot.
That's good. That's good. We do have some chaps in the chat as well. So we do have this evening with us Caleb Collects. Evening, gents. Evening, Caleb. Hope you're well. Frank is with us as well. Shout out to the Triplers. Okay. Shout out to you as well, mate. Yep. There it goes. Feeling girthy. Brilliant. Good stuff. White Direwolf is with us. Evening, Sithlord229 and lads. And Caleb says he's following on from last time. The Haslab Bendu. That's one. Ooh. That was the pitch. That was the pitch. Brandon, if you're listening,
yeah,
give me those royalties, my friend. Give me those royalties. So yeah, we've got a pretty full house tonight. So good stuff. Before we dive into the Rebels wish list and all the character selections that we've made and the pictures that we've made for the Black Series, obviously having you on, Alex, I do want to just spend a little bit of time talking about your Star Wars collecting journey and your photography process, and the fact that you dabble in a little bit of customization as well. I think there's a really, really good conversation to be had here between you and Dan, because Dan is a little bit of a customizer himself. But like I said before we went on air, just for those of you who may be watching who aren't overly familiar with Alex's work, I have taken the liberty of putting together a Mr. Stormtrooper Davis approved little show reel of some of Alex's amazing shots, and some of his custom work as well. So just to give you a little bit of a taster, and to give you a little bit of insight into what it is that Alex does, play VT. Fantastic work, Alex, I must have
Thank
to
you.
say. So yeah, but like I said, before we dive into the meat and bones, just give us a little bit of background. Like, talk us through your Star Wars journey, your collecting habits, and what essentially it is that got you into photography and action figure photography in particular.
Okay, so starting right at the beginning, I was introduced to Star Wars through the special editions on VHS. Was a fan ever since, you know, Lego, everything. Photography wise, it started with, well, I've always been interested in photography, you know, landscapes and that sort of thing. And then I can't remember when it was, but I decided to do a like a comic strip thing, just a bit of fun with a load of Lego using my phone, and that's just ignited the spark for like, I need to put action figures in front of the camera. And that's when I got my very first Black Series figure, which was the Sand Trooper, you know, in the old orange background boxes.
Yeah,
Wave one.
quite a start.
Yeah. And then it's just been a slippery slope from there. And then I decided to create my own account. Just because I'd been posting it on my like personal Instagram, and it made no sense. I was like, this when I discovered that there was a whole community out there. So then I was like, I probably should have my own account with my own handle and everything that can be dedicated to that. And then it's just gone from there.
And it really has as well. It has kicked off in a big way, and rightly so, to be fair, and well deserved. But you've recently paired up with Hasbro on a couple of projects and Star Action figures as well. And I'm keen to hear about how that came about. Was that through Hasbro reaching out to you and saying, "Look, we've seen your work. This is amazing. We love your stuff. Would you be willing to work with us on all these different projects?" Or was it something that you approached them about? Like, what was the process behind that?
So it was literally Hasbro reached out to me. Quite funny. They reached out through my email, which it turns out I don't check enough, and like almost missed all of their communication with me. And then it just sort of it started with just a Teams chat and exploring sort of possibilities of what we could be working together for doing the two projects. And then for me, it was working out timelines, whether I had the figures, what the vision was, because it was, you know, working with Hasbro, but it was also involving the guys at Star Action Figures with their vision for what the two projects could be. And then we worked out the details. We worked out what characters needed to be involved, what they could be doing. For like the May the 4th, we had a vision for there was a particular shot that was key for the May the 4th was the Anakin Skywalker poster, because it was the exact same time as the anniversary of the Phantom Menace. So it was like that was always going to be the one shot, but it was always going to be a celebration of that, some animation. So it was the Bad Batch, the Clone Wars, but also working out that it wasn't just going to be the Black Series; it needed to be TVC as well. So we're showing equal love,
balancing those scales.
Yeah. And then it was the second project was the unveiling of the most recent wave of archive figures. So Luke Skywalker, Ahsoka, and working out how we can really get the attention of the end user with that. You know, just sort of what pictures make those characters, what makes you think of those characters and those scenarios, And then with it being an archive, it was adding that, just adding an extra USP for Star Action figures. And that led on to the most recent project.
I'm glad that we came to that, because the project that's ongoing at the moment is pretty spicy. I, in my infinite wisdom, forgot to plan ahead and did not jot down the notes for the details of the current project. So, Alex, I'm relying on you, buddy, to tell the fine people out there how they can get involved in this. But what I am prepared for is the fact that I've got some of the aforementioned project in hand, and so Alex has put together a series of art cards in conjunction with Hasbro and Star Action figures as well. And Alex, just talk us through the details. How can the guys out there get their hands on some of these cards, because they are up for grabs?
They are indeed. Hang on, I need to double check these very important details as well. So basically, from right now up until when Star Action figures announced their Christmas cutoff point, you have to just spend a certain amount. Let me just double check these details. It spends £60 to £90 on Hasbro Star Wars products, and you receive 3 random cards. Then 90 to 120, you'll get 6 random cards. I think everyone can see where this is going. Spend over 120 and you get all 9. And
Indeed,
if you do in fact spend under 60, you'll get a random one thrown into your order.
And they are, I've got to say, very, very nice indeed. Wayne actually sent some of these out to me before the details were announced. I just received them and opened the box. I thought, oh, but have I ordered something that I've forgotten about? And when I opened it up, I was like, I know what these are. As soon as I saw it, because I will say that your work definitely has its own stamp and its own individuality, its own look. And as soon as you see a Mr. Stormtrooper Davis piece of work, you know that it's one of yours, Alex, and it has created its own identity. And these cards are, I think, speak volumes to that. I mean, you've selected some amazing characters, and the shots are incredible, and the quality of the cards as well are really, really nice.
I was really impressed when I got my sets as well. It was because it's when you're creating it, you're sort of like, I hope these come out well, and it's like it's all about the card finish as well. It was fun to be working with Hasbro and Star Action figures to sort of work out what characters should it be, because it's like the Princess Leia and R2-D2 one. It's like we can't just have Leia or R2 by themselves. They've got to be together. That's their journey. That was their moment. So from my perspective, we've chosen characters that are, first of all, fantastic figures, covering both the Black Series and TVC, but they are all showing and depicting key moments in the character's journey. Some of those, like Cara-Dimundi, it's not so good part of his life cycle, but, but it's a defining moment for those characters.
Well, in fairness, I mean, looking at the card, the blaster fire is coming from behind him, so we can assume at this point he's blissfully unaware of what's to come.
He's off to defeat the flankers. So
this picture was taken moments before disaster.
So it's one of those, isn't it? Record skip. So you're probably wondering how I got here. But no, they are absolutely incredible cards, incredible shots. I must admit, as a purely Black Series collector, I do have to say the TVC layer and R2 shot is my absolute favourite from the set. It really is a stunning shot. And those figures as well are fantastic. But no, amazing work. Hopefully this is the first of many. I think these could and probably will become incredibly collectible. At least
I'm
I think
hoping
that's
so
probably
too.
that's probably the aim.
I'm wondering whether people will have any opinions about what characters should go into a second wave as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Drop those in the comments down below if you do have any suggestions. But no, yeah, really good stuff. Dan, I'm going to hand the reins over to you next, my friend, because as we continue to grill Alex, as we were saying, he is a little bit of a customizer as well, and has dabbled in that area. And I know that is obviously something that you're quite keen on as well. So, Alex, just talk us a little bit about, like, we've talked about how you got into photography and how you got into collecting and Star Wars in general. Talk us through the customization process and your delving into that, because you, again, in addition to your photography, you've put out some absolutely amazing customs. The Dark Trooper that you shared on Instagram recently, I do have to say, mwah, chef's kiss. Hasbro, take note. Dark Forces, please. Enough said. But yeah, just talk us through that. How did you get into customizing, and what was it that spurred you on to create your own, not just your own figures, but your own figures that Hasbro haven't even got around to making yet?
Yeah. So the customizing always started with me wanting. It started with wanting to sort out clone troopers, because I've always felt like they've always needed a wash. They always are quite pristine.
A little bit too shiny.
A little bit too shiny, yeah. But also, I'm not a huge fan of the removable helmet. So I've always liked helmets that are solid. Hasbro, please do that for the Black Series at least. So it started off wanting to do. So I got some 3D printed helmets from GI Trooper Kits, who does like absolutely fantastic model work. And then that's just expanded onto, well, there's no TK Troopers yet, so I'll have to make a TK Trooper, which was actually my first figure where it was a complete start from scratch. So basically, I took a Stormtrooper action figure and ground it down with a Dremel, and got all the kit from CB Prints 3D, and then just completely made it. It was a challenging figure, having to like grind the legs down to like points and having to use hot glue and then spraying that and getting all the paint right, because TK Troopers are actually shiny and not grimy. Thank you, Tangy Fungus. But yeah, it's always just been figures that I want to shoot. They don't exist. One of them actually I'm gonna have, but when that'll be for later when we're talking Star Wars Rebels. But the Dark Trooper, yeah, the most recent one. I've been going down the rabbit hole of playing the OG Star Wars Battlefront, and I love those. I love those guys. You just fly in, capture the command post. So I was like, I have to have that as a figure now.
Yeah.
I think it'll work as a Gaming Greats figure for that sort of product line as well. Hasbro.
100%.
So yeah, the customizing. It's. I've always been crafty. I've always been good at doing some painting and that sort of thing. Like, I loved art at school, doing watercolors and that sort of thing. And now being able to combine that with Star Wars has opened so many different avenues. And I've seen the improvements in my own skills as well. Like my very first custom was actually Thrawn as he appeared in with his armor at the end of season 4 of Star Wars Rebels. So that battle armor, I took General Veer's armor, painted it, put all the gold trim on it, and made it all fancy. I've subsequently now redone that because it had got damaged. And oh, there we go. I see. What? I can't remember what those troopers are called now from Shadows of the Empire. That is one of my favorite ones now.
Yeah. I bring it up because it's just so relevant given recent leaks that we won't discuss here. But no, as you were talking about Throne, I saw Dan over there licking his lips.
That was actually a custom that I was planning to do myself, and I chickened out and I didn't do it. I didn't bother. It's only until really recently that I started doing customs this year. So it's interesting to hear everyone has their own ideas on making something, and when it's like something you want to make, it's always interesting that.
It is, yeah.
I think for me as well, when you're talking about the creative process, so it's like constructing a photograph and a figure. They're both very different, but the process is very the same.
Yeah.
If that kind of makes sense.
You've got to have that sort of end goal vision.
Yeah.
And then work out what do I need to achieve that vision. And then breaking down what's the composition for that. So if it's for a photograph, it's like for me, I do a lot of dioramas. So it's how am I going to have the background? For a lot of the shots, it's having to create my own backgrounds, recreate quite iconic Star Wars sets. If it's like a stock image or something like that. When it comes to a custom figure, it's can I get hold of those 3D parts?
Yeah.
What figure should be the base of that? And then what's the color scheme? Like the Dark Trooper was not fun to get that grey right, and I still don't think it's right. But
that Dark Trooper's one that I want to do myself.
That's
the same thing for me. Like I always struggle with like colors because I sit there and like that looks right, and then I put it onto the figure, and it's like, no, this isn't how I pictured it. And you always have that. I feel like everyone has that creative struggle with themselves.
The thing with color though, it's like it depends on, are you looking at the color through daylight, for artificial lights? In the game, you've got the colors bouncing off it from the game. It's getting that gray right. I had to basically just mix grays and blues until I was like, that's close enough. And then the thing is, you can just weather it then, and then it doesn't matter then.
Yeah.
It's bloody.
Weathering covers a multitude of sins, doesn't it?
Oh, yes.
I dabbled in customization very, very early on, like sort of maybe 15, 16 years ago now. Didn't really like see it through. That's one of the reasons why I was so keen for you guys to converse about the customization stuff, because you guys are really sort of ambitious when it comes to your customizing. I mean, as soon as you mention a Dremel, like I'm all about doing head swaps and stuff like that. But if anybody says, "Oh yeah, you need a Dremel for this," I'm like, I'm out. If it's not just a simple boil and pop, I don't want to know. It's too it's too much for me. So I'm like, it really interests me what you said about the whole thing about having a base figure.
Yeah.
Because you, one of the things that I think you do such a good job of, Alex, is you make these figures look like they are completely, even though they're based on one figure and they're made up of 3D printed parts, you make them look like they are completely unique, completely brand new. Especially when it comes like the Coruscant Guard in this picture we've got on screen at the minute.
Coruscant Guard, that's it.
That to me just looks like its own Black Series figure. So just talk us, just as a one example
Yeah.
of probably many. Just talk us through this one. Like, what was the process in that? Like, I'm guessing the Coruscant Guard parts are all 3D printed, and then
They are, yeah.
there's just a body underneath. But what was the groundwork for that one, and how did you build up on it?
So, okay, so this figure was the base figure was the Mandalorian Death Watch figure.
The classic. Yeah, everyone
Um,
uses that one.
It's
It's so good for customizing.
it's a fantastic one. Luckily, so the hardest part for this figure was getting the forearms because you've got Mandalorian gauntlets attached. So that was getting the old Dremel out, grinding that down, and then sandpapering it so it looks smooth, adding folds of the cloth, and then preparing the 3D parts for this. Now, this is another figure that was a real challenge getting the red. So I actually have the 3.75-inch version of this figure.
Another classic.
Yeah.
Showing my bias for Power of the Force 2 there.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's a reasonable dark red. But when it came for me wanting to do this figure, I didn't want it to just be like a boring sort of matte red. For me, the comic books, it needed to have that sort of showiness. So I've got it's a metallic red.
Yeah, that sheen, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think it was I can't remember what the exact red was, but it was like a metallic red, just in a spray can. So then it's just sandpapering all the parts, and then it's fitting it. Now the shoulders I've got elastic bands that go from the shoulder to about here, and then there's a lump of hot glue that the pauldron is glued onto, so that allows the movement for the arms to do that.
Okay.
The back of the forearm is just glued on, and I've got a thin piece of fabric, like ribbon, that is just glued on just to show the bit that connects it. And then I've just painted that with a little bit of red. The middle lower torso was completely dremeled down, so yeah, you could see the plastic peg that holds the body together, and then it's just slips that on, load of hot glue. Hot glue is your friend.
I'm taking a note of that because I never use hot glue. I never thought to use it.
Yeah, it can be nerve-wracking to use because it's hot glue, but it fills the gap, it fills voids up, and it holds a piece in place really well. And I mean, a lot of my figures, over time pieces will pop off, but with hot glue, you just put a little bit of super glue back on, and then right as rain again. So then, once all the components are sort of in place, and then they've got their main color sprayed on, they'll have a spray of gloss. So you want to use gloss because gloss actually provides some protection. Like matte varnishes and semi-glosses, they don't actually protect paint. Gloss actually creates a layer of protection for the paint. So you put gloss on, and then you want to use a matte spray to bring the shine down. Although for the red parts, which are meant to be plastic armor, or plastoid, I think is what the in-universe is, I kept that shiny. And then the fabric was meant to be a matte grey, but I was having a right trouble with this figure. It was fighting me. And then once you've had that layer done, you put your wash on. So you get nice dark greys, you get that right into the nooks and crannies, and that that really makes the figure like pop, because once all the details are visible through weathering, it just looks absolutely fantastic. You see all the details. It looks like it would realistically. It just adds that, because I don't know if you've ever watched any of like the Adam Savage videos.
Yeah, big fan.
During like just after lockdown, I really got into watching his work and like seeing how he weathers stuff, and I was like, I should try that. I need to try that now. And so that's the sort of techniques, you know. You've got dry brushing, you've got adding different colors of weathering, because you don't just want to use one color. You want to use loads of different brown. You want to add browns, oranges, just to add that little bit of realism. The key thing is to think about where dirt would appear on an actual person. So, like, if you were a real trooper, where are you going to get dirt? You've got your feet, you've got your bum from when you sit down on things, your hands, you've got your thighs from when you've wiped dirt from your hands. You've just got all these hot spots of where grime would sit, and that's where you go in and add your additional weathering. Now, the Coruscant Guard was my first foray into using fabric, and it was a right pain. Like, I don't know how people do it with fabric, but I was like folding the fabric and trying to get the folds to match the plastic mold, and I was like, no, it's just a nightmare. And then I'm super gluing bits to make it just stay flat, and I that's where I need to work on my skills there.
Fabric is a nightmare. I see some customizers use that as their like predominant basis to make figures. Like,
I don't know how they do
overlays. Nah, I am not a seamstress at all.
No. I might need to actually start learning how to use a sewing machine and that sort of thing. I mean, I can see that on the horizon.
So instead of like most customizers who now have a 3D printer set to one side, you guys are just going to be sat there with a sewing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would help to make cloaks as well. I'd love to do
Definitely,
cloaks. That's the big one. But
because the Jedi ones from the Acolyte, they've been a huge step forward in like the Hasbro cloak technology. But I think this with the scale, it's really hard to get cloaks. But so I'm always impressed if someone can make a really good cloak.
yeah.
I mean, Hasbro are getting really good at it, though. To be fair, I mean, I've said it in a couple of recent reviews. I did the re-release of Balin recently, and Darth Sidious, and like you said, those Acolyte figures as well. I think the soft goods that Hasbro are dishing out now are probably the best ones that they've ever put out. I can't say whether that's translating the same over into TVC, because I'm not picking that much TVC stuff up these days. But in terms of the Black Series, the Balaam one in particular really stands out to me, because it's and I mentioned it in the review. It's like it's such a thin fabric, but it's also of a really sort of high quality, and it's also, even despite being quite thin, it's really weighty, and it drapes. The drape is immaculate.
Yeah.
It just hangs over the figure so well and in such a lifelike way, and that's never really been captured before. So Hasbro I noticed I think it was Jesse, our friend, the Forces with Jesse, did a review on Balin recently, and someone had left a comment on his video saying, why are you wasting money on these re-releases when you can grab third-party fabrics and third-party cloaks from eBay and all this sort of stuff? Like, don't buy a new figure just to get a robe, just buy a third-party one. And I'm thinking, yeah, 100%, like all about, supporting the small creators and that sort of thing. But I don't know, like I think the quality of the official Hasbro stuff is starting to catch up with the third party stuff, because the third party stuff has
definitely,
been
yeah.
so good for so long. But now it's like, yeah, they're really making strides, and in that respect, like, yeah, I'm blown away with some of the stuff that Hasbro are putting out at the minute in terms of the soft goods, and those Acolyte figures are a testament to that, I think.
Definitely, yeah.
The new Yoda is especially good.
Oh
Like,
yeah, that is
for the
that is
size of it, that is you would never have seen that back in the day on a 3 3/4 inch. It's just sits stupidly good. Like, very little
Yeah.
effort needed to get that look good.
But that's what you want, though, isn't it? You don't want to be spending
Mm.
time like. I mean, I was always an advocate for the wire hoods and all that sort of stuff, and being able to bend and pose those. But for something to not have the metal wire inside it, and just to be able to naturally drape and flow, is so refreshing, and it's so cool to
definitely,
see.
yeah.
Yeah.
I am just putting.
Oh, sorry.
Go on, sorry, Dad. No, you guys talk amongst yourselves. I'm just prepping for the next segment.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's like the customizers, Hasbro seeing what people can kick out from a 3D printer and what people are doing at home. And I think that's where we're starting to see them pick up the game a little bit more. Because this year, they've been churning out some absolutely incredible figures.
Yeah. I think 2024 has been the year of Black Series, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So far.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what we're going to see next year, to be honest. My wallet's like sitting on standby, like, oh my gosh.
I'm looking forward to seeing how Hasbro deal with the fabric part of the Coruscant Guard as well.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, would
that's going to match up? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know whether I'd make a case for it for any fabric, to be honest, because there's the shoulder cape, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to that being plastic.
No, yeah, it's what they did back in the day. So
they've started to sort of dabble in both quite recently. The cape on Dagon Gera is just solid plastic, but it's of no hindrance, and it aesthetically looks very nice. And I think
the Sidious as well with the plastic hood.
The hood, yeah, very good.
That's another one I made a case for in the review, actually, because I said I don't think if they did, despite how good the soft goods is at the minute, I don't think soft goods on that figure would have been the same.
Yeah.
I think the plastic was the right choice to make in that situation.
Definitely, yeah.
Just because of the Balin cloak it does a really good job of it, but I think the way that the Sidious hood sits and casts that, depending on where you've got it displayed in your collection, the way it casts the shadow over his eyes and over his face, it genuinely does look like he just dived out of the movie. I'd honestly think that is probably one of the best Black Series figures that they've put out. I was excited for it before I even saw it in person, and then seeing it, I was like, yeah, this is bloody perfect. So they
did a very good job.
They did. They are absolutely killing it with Black Series at the minute. They really, really are. But no, it's so cool to get an insight into that process and the creative side of Star Wars. That's one of the things that I'm always keen, when we get guests on these streams, I'm always keen to talk about, not just the Star Wars journey itself and how you got into it and what got you into collecting and all that sort of stuff, but the way that different people adapt different hobbies and passions into the Star Wars side of their hobbies as well.
Yeah.
So to like I said, to hear you talk about like how you loved art at school, and that's like transcended over into your Star Wars collecting as well, and the same with Dan. Like, it's just it's so cool to get all these different perspectives and stuff. It's just it's always such an insightful conversation. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh, that's all right.
Always good to hear. That does bring us though onto our next segment and the main premise of this live stream. So we are 40 minutes in, going to talk about Star Wars Rebels, and usually around this time, before we dive into the next segment, we usually do a little bit of a recent pickups, and we usually talk about what we've been adding to our collections in the time that it's been between streams. But this time I thought we'd shake it up and do something a little bit different, because I've been a little bit quiet on the collecting side of things since I got back from Disneyland. That burnt a hole straight through my wallet that's still trying to recover. So what I thought we'd do this time around, instead of talking about recent pickups, is talk about our favourite Rebels collectibles. The favourite items in our collections that come from the Star Wars Rebels animated series. So whether that's a Black Series figure, whether that's a signed picture, be what it may. I'm keen to get a picture of what your guys' favourite Star Wars Rebels item in your collection is. So we'll whiz around. I'll start with you, James, because I think you've got a pretty tasty one to share.
Yeah. Speaking of signed pictures, excuse the glare from my phone. It's not going to come across as nice. But yeah, 2019, I went to MCM Birmingham. Probably this time of the year, to be honest. Never really been to a big convention like that before, but they had Taylor Gray and Steve Bloom there, and at the time Vanessa Marshall was supposed to go, and then unfortunately that didn't go to plan. But love Star Wars animation, and I was definitely excited that they were going to be there. It's very rare for the UK to get any sort of Star Wars animation talent. So off I went, and I found this nice poster online from it's either season 3 or 4. Printed it out because, as you guys know, one of my superpowers is that I panic about everything. So I was worried that the prints on the table wouldn't be good enough. I always try and carry a backup print just in case. So I got this printed in nice quality. And yeah, went away and got it signed. And I mean, I probably look at this every day. It's above my TV. And I don't know. It's just one of those things, you look at it and you're instantly transported back. I had great conversations with the both of the guys. I had a Star Wars hoodie on, which has got this Japanese Star Wars logo on the front, and then on the back it's the opening crawl for A New Hope. And Taylor Gray was just enamored by that. He asked me where I bought it from and how he could get one, and he'd not seen anything like that in the States. He was talking about the entire sort of voiceover side of recording the show, what Dave Filoni was like, what Sam Witwer was like, all these people that he'd met, and he'd obviously grown up over the course of the series. And then to meet Steve Bloom as well, who's not only now a Star Wars bona fide legend and all the different voice cameos that he's got, but that guy's one of the the voice acting greats. Spoilers.
Yeah. Sorry.
So it was, for someone like me, I've progressively gotten better, but I'm always a socially anxious person. So to go to a massive sort of hangar bay sized room surrounded by people, to meet just a few people that I idolized to a certain extent, it's just a fun time. And Rebel stuff is so few and far between anyway, and it would have been very easy for me to get a Black Series figure or a lightsaber and talk about that, but this has got a little bit of story to it, and it's one of the only sort of posters that I've got that's signed where I planned ahead. Not that I ever had any plans to, or not that I foresaw any of the other cast coming over here at any point, but we'll get onto that in a minute. But hopefully, before I end up 6 feet in the ground, maybe I'll be able to get this completed. And speaking of which, Vanessa Marshall's going to be at Star Wars Fan Fun Day next year, so this is coming along with me, and hopefully I'm going to be able to get that signed as well. So
brilliant.
Oh, fantastic.
Awesome.
Happy days.
Awesome. I love that. when something's got a story. It's like you said, yeah, you can pick up a Black Series figure, but when there's something that you've got that's got a story behind it, that always makes for the best show and tell, I think. Dan, what about you, mate? What's your favorite? I know, I've got a feeling I already know what it is.
Well, it was almost going to be this, but I feel like I've shown it off a bit too much considering last time. But,
I genuinely thought that's what it was going to be.
Oh well, I thought I'd just show it again because it's very nice. This is the Ghost, the main home of the Rebels crew.
I feel like Hasbro really missold it because that looks a lot smaller than I was expecting.
I can't believe it. I couldn't believe it when it came through my doors. Like, flipping heck. I spent all that money. Nah. This is the Micro Galaxy Squadron, and it's bloody lovely. Now, I've showed it off last time, and this is one of them. But for me, this other thing is more of a story. I didn't think Hasbro would do this figure in Black Series. I know I've chosen the Black Series figure, contrary to what James just said. But this one has a special story that I won't repeat on this stream or tell. But it is a story of resilience and a story of a microwave. This is the first release of Grand Admiral Thrawn. Now, there's lots of stories behind this boy. And the main one for me is not about the microwave. It's about going into Toys R Us and screaming like an absolute child finding him. There's definitely a clip of that on YouTube somewhere or on Facebook.
It's on my Facebook because it's from one of the live toy hunts that we did for Rogue Friday. Was it Rogue Friday or Force? It was Force Friday too, wasn't it?
Force Friday 2 for Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And we searched high and low. We went to the biggest Toys R Us, not there. We went to Finn Planet, not there. We everywhere. And we went to the smallest Toys R Us there was. And who was sat on peg? Steve pulls him out and says, Dan, they've got him. It's like, nah, he's having a laugh. And there he is. Slamming my card like that's it. Staff had a field day.
If I remember rightly, Dan did the How to Star Wars sound effects TIE Fighter scream down the aisle. When he saw this
there was lots of noises. I was also intrigued from that kid. There was this little lad who came up to. He's like, "Is there a new Star Wars film coming out?" I was like, "Yeah, there is." And he's not even in it. But yeah, for all his he's eluded me at Celebration. He eluded me for a little bit on pegs at Toys R Us, and he almost eluded me in a microwave. But he's still here, standing strong, and he sits proudly on my throne shrine when I've got the updated one as well. So yeah, he's very special to me, this boy. I love him. So that's Thrawn. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you for coming to Dan's TED Talk.
It could have been a TED Talk.
Another story for another time. Alex, Alex, mate, what about you? Have you managed to have a rummage and?
Yeah, so I've technically got two things. One is an actual physical thing, and one is a memory. So a custom loft cap.
Oh wow,
that's cool.
I remember seeing these
by Aces Film Models.
That's the jam.
It's just absolutely adorable because I love cats and I had to have a loft cap.
I was literally just about to say, as a cat owner myself, I need this.
Yeah, I just absolutely love them. They're just adorable, so I had to have a little Black Series scale one. So that's my little physical part of the Star Wars Rebels world. And the second one is a memory. that's going to stay with me forever. It's Thrawn related as well. So
Dan,
it was.
put your Monday away.
So it's Star Wars Celebration 2016 in London. I managed to get into the Star Wars Rebels panel,
Oh,
You
and
lucky devil.
I remember sitting there, and like as panels go, they're talking about how the show's great and they've done all this, that, and the other, and they're like, "Should we show you a trailer?" And everyone wants a trailer.
oh don't be
And-
taking me back.
Taking me back, and I wasn't even in the room.
I bloody
For me,
was.
It was sat in a room with like 2,000 other people when the trailer opens, and it's Kanan, and he's dealing with it's the trailer for season 4. So Kanan's blinded, and he's talking about the aftermath of that. And then it's the moment, it's energy in the room. The moment you see like the back of Thrawn, and he starts speaking, and the huge eruption of cheers in that room, it's going to stay with me forever. That it's just that 2,000 people suddenly like, it's Thrawn.
Yeah, it was. I remember being in that room as well, and I think what did it for me like that, because I think leading up until that point, there'd been rumours that they were going to bring him into animation, and they were going to try and like adapt parts of Legends in the expanded universe into Rebels and into future animation projects, but there was no like official confirmation. And when Dave Filoni was on the stage, and he said, he just mentioned like a really subtle line about Legends, and everybody was like, "We know what's coming."
Sometimes there's truth to legends. I think
That's
what
the
he said,
one.
wasn't it?
That's the one. And there was that like anticipation of like, "Well, nah, come on."
For me, it was just when he just starts saying his line about picking them apart piece by piece, and then the organ kicks in, and you're like,
Yeah,
it
was so
it's
good.
like, yeah, that was.
I was excited. I wasn't even in the room. I was watching it on the live stream there, like.
What an interesting full circle moment of two halves, though. You guys got to see him revealed in animation at Celebration.
Yeah.
And me and Dan got to see him revealed in live action at Celebration. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
That's meant.
Yeah.
It's meant. I think it was that panel as well. That I was at, 'cause I was sat. I don't know where you were sat, Alex, but I was on the left hand side of the room, about 5 or 6 rows from the front, and there were a couple of cosplayers that walked in as we were taking our seats and stuff. And it goes back to Rebels as well. It's Rebels related. So speaking of the memories, and they walked in, and one was dressed as Ezra in his Imperial Cadet uniform.
Yeah.
And the other chap was dressed as Agent Callus in full ISB armor, full helmet, the mutton chops.
Wow.
Wow.
I'll give him a mention because I still to this day follow him on Instagram. Niles O'Neill's. Apologies if you're watching and I butchered your name, but either Niles O'Neill's cosplay, and I believe he's from the Netherlands, and his Callus cosplay it's the only one I've seen, to be fair, but it's the best. It's so good. It's so good. And they walked in, and it was just the way he carried, like the swagger he had. And I asked him, I said, "Can I like your costumes are just too cool. I can't not get a photo." And it was really good because the photo I managed to take was those two. The guy dressed as Callus doing the pose with the helmet under his arm, like raising the eyebrow, the really like arrogant smirk, and then in the background you'd got on the screen the Star Wars Rebels logo, and it was just having those two. It was perfect. It was perfect. So yeah, I'm right there with you. That's a memory that's going to stick with me as well. Like that entire atmosphere was just unreal, absolutely unreal. My story goes back to what James said during his presentation of his photo. And it's like he says, like we Rebels stuff is few and far between, especially in terms of collectibles, and it is like James said, very very rare. At least for some of the smaller cons, that anyone from Rebels or Star Wars animation tends to appear at events. But back in 2017, I attended my first Star Wars fan fun day for a number of years. It was, I think, the first one that I'd attended since my dad passed away, because we always made a big like family event of it. And, like me, my mum, my girlfriend at the time, my now wife would come along to the show. We'd have a table and all that sort of stuff. And it was the first one that I'd gone to, sort of not by myself. My wife came with me as well, but we went and. Just as bystanders, we just had a stroll around, just having a look at everything. And I remember the hook that got me, because I was still like, well, do I go? Do I not go? Do I give it a miss this year and go next year? But the hook that got me was Taylor Gray was going. And I couldn't believe that. I mean, we've had Nez, one of the organisers of the Star Wars Fan Fun Day, on one of these streams a couple of months ago, and we're in frequent communication, and the fact that I was blissfully unaware that they'd managed to score such a, at the time, because 2017, like, Rebels was so prevalent and so relevant in the Star Wars universe, like it was still on the air, and you know, I think it was we were heading into the final season, and for this little, at the time, convention in Burnley, to get someone the caliber of Taylor Gray at that time, I was like, I've got to go. I can't pass this opportunity up. But then at the time, I was thinking, well, what do I get signed? Like, I want to meet Taylor. I want to get something signed, but what do I get signed? And I thought, do I get a print? Nah, I didn't get a print. I became a basic bitch and got a Funko Pop instead. So my little story is and it is a story in and of itself as well, is meeting Taylor Gray, getting my little Ezra Pop signed. And what was really funny, because I feel terrible telling the story, but Taylor was at his table, and his line had finally died down, and so I approached, and he was mid conversation with a young lady at his table, and I was a little bit starstruck, a little bit like, I can sympathise with James. I'm not the most socially confident person myself, and in these situations when you meet actors and stuff like that, I never know what to say. Because I'm always like, well, they don't want to hear how big of a fan I am of them, because they hear that all the time. I've got nothing interesting to say because they don't know who I am. Like, I overanalyze and overthink, and I'm like, what do I do? Like, how do I approach this? And so I just like sheepishly walked over to the table and like had this pop in my hand. I was like, "Hi, Taylor," and like I said, he was mid conversation with this young lady, and he was chatting away, and he said hi. We introduced and exchanged pleasantries, and he said, "Oh, this is my friend," and again, I butcher names, but this is my friend Ingrid or Ingvid, I forget. I was like, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you. Would you mind signing this pop, please?" It's like, "Yeah, of course. What's your name?" Blah, blah, blah. Signed it, walked away, blah, blah, blah. Job's a good one. Got a signed pop. Little did I know that when I walked away, the young lady that he was speaking to was the young lady who provided the motion capture for Princess Leia at the end of Rogue One. And I had absolutely no idea who she was. I was like, "Why are you introducing me to this person?" Like, okay, yeah, like, that's fine, but I'm here for you. And I walked away and coming to that realisation, and I was mortified. Absolutely mortified. I was like, oh, did I come across as really rude in that situation? Like, oh no, what? I not being able to stop thinking about it since. It was one of those moments, you know, like when you get served your meal at a restaurant. It was like, there you go, enjoy your meal. Thanks, you too. It was that level of like, oh, the cringe. It lives with me. But there you go. You live and learn, don't you? I suppose. But yeah.
if you don't mind me just getting off on a little tangent, because I haven't mentioned this to anyone other than my girlfriend Laura. I can sympathise with you there, Steve, because the more I recollect about Celebration, particularly the part where I met Doug Chang, the more after coming away watching the live stream of all the things that I didn't get to see while I was there, the more I think about that, the more I convince myself the person who I asked to take the picture of me and him was actually John Knoll, who leads the Creature Shop. But I am 99% confident that I probably did the exact same thing that you did to that lady, and just treated him like a piece of not like a piece of shit, but
I know what
would
you mean.
you? Would you mind just taking a picture? And he's like, yeah, sure. He's probably thinking, don't you want to get a picture with me?
Yeah.
It's
like
do you ever
that.
have them embarrassing moments when you think of it and suddenly you just like sit there and you make a loud noise, like you start humming to a random fucking song because you just get fucking embarrassed sitting there on your own and you're doing that.
It's one of those, isn't it? It's like, have you ever seen that Family Guy skit with Benjamin Disraeli? And it's like there's some like comment about who the first Prime Minister of the United Kingdom was, and then it just cuts to Benjamin Disraeli, and he just looks at the camera and says, "You don't even know who I am." And that's just all I think about. That's literally all I think about. But the cringe just is strong with me. Do you know what I mean? Like it burns my soul to this day. Like I can't live it down. I hate it. It's almost as bad as the throwing business cards at rebel pilots during the throwing panel.
I was waiting for that one.
That's a memory from the throwing panel I don't talk about, but there we go. No, cool stories. I like it. It always gets a laugh. Right, I think it's time to get to the meat and bones of the stream and start discussing what we came here to discuss. But before we do, he's come back, he has returned, he's with us once again, so it needs acknowledging. Richard Coleman is in the house and has dropped the first super chat of the night. Thank you very much. And yes, Richard, cats do certainly rule. I almost didn't make it to the stream, actually, because I was sat downstairs watching the chase and I got the cat on my lap. And it was one of those moments where I was like, I can't move now. How can I possibly move? I can't ruin this, but sacrifices had to be made. Right, let's dive into it. Let's talk Star Wars Rebels and let's make our pitches for the Black Series, because I think it's safe to say we've had some pretty good figures in the Black Series from Star Wars Rebels so far, but it's been a while since we've had any new ones. So Hasbro, kindly, if you're listening, take notes, because these are the characters from Rebels that we want to see in the Black Series. So again, we'll go around the table. We'll start with you, James, and your first pick. We'll start with I think some of us have made some quite inspired choices. Some of us have gone for something a little bit more left field, and some of us have gone for some more, I can't believe that this isn't actually a figure yet. So let's start with yours, James. It is one of those examples of I can't believe this isn't a figure yet. Talk us through it.
Oh no, who saw that one coming? James picking Captain Rex. Yeah, man, I mean, that Captain Rex, for those of you that haven't watched the stream before, or those of you that are now sick of hearing me say it, Rex is my favourite Star Wars character. He's just the character that I resonated most with when I was younger, and even in Star Wars Rebels, I don't know how old I was probably, a teenager going into my 20s, and I suppose we can all say that we were in the same boat when we thought Rebels was good, but we were a little skeptical as to where it was going in terms of connecting to larger Star Wars stories other than the time period in which it was set. And having Ahsoka was one thing, but then came the question, well, what about Captain Rex? And I remember it like it was yesterday, the debut episode with this guy and Gregor and Wolf. And considering he is, a fan favorite clone, where the bloody hell is the Rebels version of his figure in the Black Series? He became an integral part of the story from then on, and I think he's very deserving of a spot in the line, especially now, as we've discussed, with Black Series being at possibly its all-time best. A few years ago, I might have said maybe we shouldn't see some Rebels characters just yet. But there are some great customs of this guy out there, and I think it's about time that Hasbro picked up the gauntlet and said, you know what, we're going to make an official version. I'm a simple man. I don't expect much. Base figure, removable helmet, or an interchangeable one.
I was going to say, don't say that to Alex.
Well, as Alex said, in the vintage collection, it's actually worked really well so far.
Yeah.
And I would also appreciate not having to see the chins of my clone troopers under the helmets whilst they're on the shelf. So whatever they can do to maybe further that sort of advancement. Soft goods are getting good. How about helmets? Let's address that next. But yeah, man, it's Rex. One of my favorite episodes, no surprise, is the Clone Wars anniversary episode, where Rex, Ezra, and Kanan go against Kalani and the remaining Separatist forces. There's just something so cool about, the amount of armor that he's still wearing, and he's got a cool beard. Beards are cool. I can't fucking grow one, but
right there with you, mate.
But it was great just to see, the change from a character that we knew as, a soldier in his prime to somebody that's now a seasoned veteran. That becomes a mentor in many ways to some of the other characters, and his presence is sorely missing from that shelf, like a lot of the characters we're going to discuss today. So he's number one in the spot for a Black Series figure for me. Hasbro, absolutely. Pull your finger out, please.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I think it's absolutely criminal that the only figure that we have of this version of Rex is the 5 POA one from the Force Awakens line.
Yeah.
As good as that figure is, I mean, I've got a soft spot for that one. I really do like it. I just find it baffling to think that in no way, shape or form has it been updated, be it in super articulated form in TVC or in the 6-inch format. It's like I said, it's one of those figures where you think, how is this not already a figure? But at the same time, I've got to agree with you in that sense that maybe now is the best time to do it. Maybe it's better that they've waited, because they are at their peak with how they're putting out the Black Series figures. They've never been better. So this figure, if it was to come out today, would be the best version of it.
Yeah. Specifically with how they're doing the troopers now with the oval HSPCs and the loose shoulder pads, it lends itself so well to the cobbled together nature of his outfit, for at least for the first few seasons that he appears in. Just so and say, I'm in that camp where Rex and Nick Sand are two separate characters, despite my love for the character. So Mr. Filoni, I'm putting my message into the universe. Tim Morrison would love to play a live action Rex. He's said it many times. Get him in season 2 of Ahsoka, please.
Absolutely.
That's all I want for Christmas this year, Lucasfilm.
in terms of like preference as to his release, then would you go for sort of first appearance in Rebels Rex with the clone helmet still, or?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so you wouldn't want the sort of Rebel Trooper version with the greens and the helmet.
I wouldn't say no to that version if I already had this one.
Yeah.
But as nice as that version is, it is very similar to a lot of things we've already got. I think it's got a real uniqueness to it, this particular version. It's iconic in its own right now, I think. Same for the other 2 clones. Honorable mention, they're all they're all interesting designs. They tell a story, you know, of what was and what now is at that moment in time. And to see it, you know, realised in the Black Series, it would be done in a somewhat realistic style. So the only sort of examples of that, I think there's a character model in one of the Star Wars mobile games, and Gentle Giant did a 6th scale bust, which I used to have, and that was Rebels Rex done in a realistic style, and it really lends itself quite well to, you know, the likeness of Tamara Morrison. So it'd be a great one to see.
Yeah, I'm on board. What about you two, Dan, Alex? You all in on this one?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Purchase?
I'd get that,
God,
and I'd get
God. Yeah.
in my head. You get his first appearance, and then they can do like a store exclusive of him in the green gear that can be, you know, reuse some of the parts. You know, they can use the tooling.
I'd even go for a Stormtrooper disguise version just for just for the novelty of seeing Rex in Stormtrooper armor. I never thought
Rex. Yes.
Dad bod Rex, absolutely.
Yes.
Representation matters.
Yes.
And that's your convention exclusive.
There you go.
Bosh.
With a cardboard sleeve that just fits. Nah, I love it. I love it. It's like I said, it's an obvious choice, isn't it? I think we started strong with a figure that just it needs to happen. Definitely needs to happen. Dan, we're going to move on to your pick, your first pick, and like I said, we're going for choices here that are how is that not already a figure? Now we're diving into, I didn't even know, at least from my perspective, because I haven't watched Rebels in a while. This is the problem when you only watch certain Star Wars media once, and I've only done that. I've only ever watched most of the episodes of Rebels once, so when you suggested this one to me, I was like, I don't even know what that's from. But because of that, I absolutely love it. So, Dan, talk us through it.
Oh, this one. I've been thinking about this one a lot when I've been walking to work. Just how cool it would be. This is I don't know the exact name of it, apologies, but it's the infiltration droid that the Empire used to raid Chopper Base and get intel from them. And it starts off with that very Ralph McQuarrie-like design of C-3PO. And then when it unveils itself to be what it actually is, this fucking terror. Excuse my language.
Sorry, I think the viewers are used to it by now, mate.
It's a real menace. It's a real menace. It's so creepy, and how it moves. I love it. If they could do it where it would actually transform into the like Imperial droid that you see, that'd be awesome. I'd imagine though it'd probably be an interchangeable part jobby.
Yeah.
And it would lend itself perfectly as a deluxe figure. What I would also say as well, if they did want to go down the exclusive route, is if they actually made the escape pod for it as well. Be that as packaging or like a canister kind of thing, like a I
like that idea of doing it in like as the packaging.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
And I
have
thought
Buzz Lightyear vibes.
And I thought the eyes as well. They could, when it's like in the transform mode with its like head up, like the unclasped, put light pipe in it. Red light pipe would be fun to see in Black Series. A bit gimmicky, I know, but
we have not seen. I think it's gimmicky, but we've not seen it in that long that it'd be welcomed back if they did it now. It'd be like, oh, okay, that's quite cool. Yeah, I'm glad that that's appropriate for this release, sort of thing. Yeah, I'll be on board with that.
Yeah, this one is just I love the design of it when it's in its, that, like I said, the Ralph McQuarrie look is iconic, and how they incorporated that into Rebels and a lot of the designs in Rebels. This would be awesome to see. I know it's very unlikely we'll probably see this one, but if there's any custom people out there watching, if you can do a build for that, I'll snag it up for me.
Funnily enough, we have a bit of a customizer in our midst.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm
No,
sure
I think-
I'm sure 3D modelers can. This hardly any work for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I like the idea. I like the concept, like you said, of having the interchangeable parts. I think that would probably definitely work better in this instance because I feel like doing the arm separation and all that sort of stuff would be quite an intricate, any scale, be it 3 3/4 inch or even 6 inch, it'd be quite an intricate process to get the hinges on
Yeah.
the smaller parts and what have you. I think it
They've done it with Grievous, and it's a bit
yeah, that's what I mean.
questionable on how it worked out. But yeah, this one, just how its actual fingers and hands kind of transform. They'd just be so cool to see.
Yeah. It's just getting that weird into Star Wars again, isn't it? I mean, we've said it multiple times on these streams. If you've tuned in for any period of time, like weird Star Wars is the best Star Wars, and they don't come much weirder than this. Like I said, when you suggested this one, I was like, that is left field, and I'm here for it. Just the color as well. Like I think that just it stand out like so well on a shelf. It's just a weird design. And I went back and watched the clip of this, and when you see it for the first time, and you just see that innocent-looking, sort of like Macquarie-inspired, 3PO concept design, you think, oh, okay, that's
it's such a flip on what the design represents as well, because Macquarie always remember them saying they wanted C-3PO to be this innocent character, like lost in the desert, and you've got that with the in the whole sort of depiction of this character, but then what it really represents is it's actually a Trojan horse. It's coming in to just mess you up, and I'm all for that.
Makes you think that they chose that design purposely, not just as sort of fan service for those of us who are out there that'd be like, oh, I know, I recognise that design. It's like it's actually done with purpose. I'm here for that. What about you guys, James? That one for you?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of reuse potential as well, because I believe you see that at least the base droid design throughout Rebels as just different droids as guards, and obviously you could get a Macquarie C-3PO out of it. So people that aren't sort of interested in the Rebels side, the collecting, they'd be getting something out of it in the future. Seems like a no-brainer release.
Multifaceted. I'm looking at this picture taken from the show, and I'm just visualising this as a Mr. Stormtrooper Davis piece.
Yeah.
With that lighting in the background and that just that as a figure. Like, one for you. Would you pick it up?
Yeah, definitely. That's this is a nice bit of Star Wars sort of horror, isn't it? Really, it's
yeah.
No, I'm all for this figure.
It's weird, but in all the right ways.
Yeah.
Love it. Moving on to you, Alex, and your first pick for the Black Series from Star Wars Rebels. We do have, and again, this goes back to James's choice, and how is this not a figure yet? Because she played a pivotal role in the show. Excellent character as well.
Yeah.
Talk us through this one.
Well, she's such an iconic character now. She's the highlight of the Imperial sort of we're better than everyone. They've got the female Imperial officer body. All it takes is we could get a version with armor, without armor. It just seems obvious to me. We've got Thrawn, we need Price now. So what's more to say?
Hey, they could do a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive, wabbing a reissue of Thrawn, but give him those snazzy green glasses that we see in the comic.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. Nice 2-pack, the two of them.
Yeah.
The dynamic duo of the TIE Defender program.
Bosh.
In TIE Defenders themed packaging as well.
There you go.
Stop it.
Get all the schematics in the background.
Oh.
See, you look at the character. It's like they've got the female Imperial officer body is just there. All it would be is a new head. Just
Did Dan, you'll probably be able to offer more insight on this being an Indiana Jones collector. But did they ever? I forgot the name of the character that she plays in
Oh,
in Crystal
Arena
Skull.
Spalco.
Yeah. Did they ever do an update, like a modern figure of her in the indie 6-inch line?
No, they missed out on King of the Crystal Skull, and I'm very bitter about that.
Cowards.
Because
that's a
I even thought the same, because in terms of the 3 3/4 inch, they did do an Arena Spalco in 3 3/4 inch. A lot of people were using that as a base for this.
Because I was just about to say,
Yeah,
like
that's-
Kate, like if this character ever gets brought to life in live action, like Kate Blanchett just seems like a no-brainer.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I know she didn't provide the voice in the show, but like just as a like, how is that not Kate Blanchett in animation? Do you know what I mean?
Completely.
Like-
Yeah.
For a very long time, she was a character I was lobbying to see cameo in Andor. I mean, there's still time, but
Yeah.
you know, the timelines are extremely close together. So
Oh, can you
Definitely.
imagine?
Yeah.
Governor Price and Dead Ramiro.
we did get he's not an admiral at the time, is he? But we got to see Lauren. That was a really well done one. So
Even if it's
Yeah.
like she appears as like a hologram in some meeting or something.
yeah, anything in the ISB facility.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff they can tap into with that, but yeah, no, it's like I said, it's a crime that we never got her in the Rebels line. So to get her in 6-inch and make it the best version of the character that it could possibly be just makes sense now. Let's have it. What about you two, James, Dan? One for you? Stupid
Oh
question.
yeah.
I don't know why I always ask that. I always say like, "Would you guys pick this up?" It's like, "Of course you would. It's a Star Wars figure."
Does a bear shit in the woods?
Well, that brings us to my first pick, and I'll be honest. I'll not say I've gone obvious, but I've gone easy. I'm helping Hasbro out with this pick because it's a simple retool / re-release. It literally only needs a couple of new parts added to an already existing figure, but it is Ezra as he appears in, I believe, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, season 4, 3. He appears in Star Wars Rebels in this outfit. But it's Ezra with. I mean, I've not picked the best shot for it, but it's Ezra with the jetpack, with the biker scout helmet, with all the funky paint apps. It's a simple figure for Hasbro to put out because they can quite easily reuse the Ezra figure that they release as part of the Ahsoka line, which is very, very, very similar to how Ezra appears in Rebels itself. Like I said, just a throw in a helmet, throw in a jetpack, boo, bosh. You've got a brand new figure, and I've yet to pick up the Ahsoka Ezra, so this would probably spur me on to, in the same way that I never picked up the first release of Bale and Skull, and then when the re-release came out with the robe, I picked that up. Do this in the same way. I'd buy it.
Isn't this version of Ezra the one that's in the exclusive pack with the big HasLab Ghost?
Yes, I believe so.
So that comes with the painted scout helmet.
Yeah, I believe. I'm not sure. I don't think it comes with the jetpack, does it? Or does it?
No, just the helmet. Helmet and a white loaf cap.
Yeah. So I was looking through stills of it, and I was like trying to pick because I knew I wanted it, but I couldn't remember where it was from, and still can't because I'm a useless knob. But
it's season 4 of Rebels when they attempt to retake Mandalore from the Empire. Not that
that's the one.
you know.
Yeah.
I'm smart art or anything.
I knew I'd seen it as part of the Mandalore arc because he's obviously there with the Mandalorian jetpack and he's there with all the other Mandalorians. Like I said, I need to go back and rewatch Rebels at some point, because I've only watched I think with the exception of the episode where Ahsoka and Vader meet again. Ah man, I've watched that episode so many times because it is
So
just it gets me every time. Every time I'm just like I choke. But with the other episodes, I've only watched once, maybe twice at a push. So it'd be a good idea for me to go back and watch it again. But no, just like I said, I'm. That's one of the things I like about these wishlist streams is because you guys always come to the table and say and make a case for why the character needs to be represented in the Black Series. Whereas I sometimes try and think, well, what what would make a good toy? Like, what would be like in terms of the action figure process itself? I'm thinking, what would be easy for Hasbro to reissue? What would be easy for Hasbro to retool? What would as an action figure? Like I know we've talked about it, but the HasLab Bendu, like, realistically, is that ever going to happen? As nice as it'd be. Whereas I think stuff like this has got a more realistic chance, and I think it's easy for them to do, but it's still something that you wouldn't see this come out as a reveal and think, that's a bit underwhelming. You'd see it and you'd think, there's reuse there, but it's a version of a character that I want in my collection. So yeah, bring it on. That's just how I feel about it, and I always love Ezra's approach with the helmets, like just getting all those. I talk about exclusives and deluxe figures. Give me an exclusive Ezra that's just got all the different helmets that he paints or steals or uses throughout the show, like the cadet training helmet. Just all the Ezras.
I'd quite like to see Ezra in the Scout Trooper armor, but that then gives Hasbro the opportunity to do a new Scout with a new helmet. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
I mean,
I'm there for that.
We don't really talk about the prop side of things, like the Black Series prop helmet. This could coincide really nicely with a reissue of that Scout Trooper helmet, but repainted like that.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
We're seeing a lot of cohesion with the Disney Store and Disney Store and Hasbro Black Series and the helmets that they're making. It'd be really cool to see more of that. Yeah, I think definitely having the figure represented with the actual prop.
While I agree with you, Dan, I don't want that to happen because I'm trying to curb my helmet purchases because I don't have the space. I'm struggling now, but that is something that I'd have to buy. So I'm just gonna pretend you didn't. Yeah, I'm just gonna pretend I didn't hear that.
Ignore that, Hasbro.
Don't listen to Dan. He's a madman. James, that brings us back around to you, my friend. And again, with the whole, how is this not a figure yet? We've had him in the Rebels line in 5 POA in his first appearance. But talk us through this choice, Mr. Fenrir.
I mean, the custodian of Mandalore history, as I like to think of him, because he gives that very lovely sort of retrospective into Tar Vizsla and the history of the Darksaber.
Love that.
Now, we've had a lot of blue Mandalorians, so I understand if this one turns your stomach a little bit. But
in defence, this wouldn't be going on the Mandalorian shelf. So it's not that you've not got that oversaturation issue.
But this guy has one of the most unique looking sets of Mandalorian armor I think we've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's why I chose his second appearance, because the flight gear that he first appears in is very basic, and this is when he sort of becomes more of a what's the word I want? Titular character. He's got a moral compass about him finally, and he's very on the fence when we first meet the character.
You start to see that depth to him, don't you?
Yeah, he figures out what he wants to fight for, and when you see this guy in action, finally, he is a force to be reckoned with, and just having that armor represented in the Black Series, you know, it's very different in proportion, very different in style. It's almost got like an antique sort of style to it, in a similar way that we saw Prime Minister Olmec in the Clone Wars in season 7 with his armor. It's very more ceremonial and
personal.
yeah. It sort of looking at it now and not seeing it for a while. It reminds me of this in Jedi Fallen Order. There are I think like Zepho Sentinels or something. They're like these big ironclad. You think they're statues, and then when you walk past them, they fucking jump scare you, and they shoot these big laser beams out, and it's got kind of that vibe to it. And
like a Gilded Age of Mandalore.
Yeah, it'd make for a great figure, and like I say, I like that it's got a lot of history to the character. It is very much at that point in the Star Wars timeline. He's the Bible for Mandalore in a way, because a lot of it's become lost over the years, and I always thought it was a real shame they never did anything with this character in The Mandalorian. I suppose it's I suppose the assumption is that he perished along with Sabine's family. But
yeah, because it's never really
I hope
divulged, is it? What actually happens to him? I don't
think so.
No, I was going to say, to have him like pop up amongst the Mandalorian covert would be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'd like to think he's still out there, ready to come back.
I would have had him I would have had him be one of the survivors on Mandalore in season 3, but that's just me. I'm not writing these things, so and I'm not making the action figures either. But here we are begging for them. So I suppose it's a day for once, and I want this one.
Will the blue boy come with a cup? All important question from Chaotic. And a campfire. And it's got to come with a campfire. Deluxe that shit.
A campfire, absolutely. A cup, fuck no. We've got too many of them in the Black Series as it is.
Yeah, too many cups that don't look like cups as well. Just look like weird little
fucking grub screws.
Yeah. I think I picked one of Bib Fortuna's cups up the other day because I'd lost a screw for my Billy Bookcase glass shelf. I was like trying to screw it in, and I was like, oh wait, hang on a minute. Yeah, that's not that. But no, I love that. Like I said, I love that you always make a case for why the character is important to be represented, but then at the same time, like, you kill two birds with one stone in the sense that it's an important character, it's a damn cool character, but then you've also got that visual appeal as well. Because this version of Fen Rao, I'm in total agreement with you, James. Like, his first appearance is very basic, cool but basic, whereas this is just talked about it earlier, but Buzz Lightyear vibes. Do you know what I mean? Like.
Yeah. I still scratch my head to this day as to why the original Rebels animated figure is worth as much as it is. I know it was poorly distributed, but the design is great. So
yeah. It's a cool one to have, though. I'm just looking at it now and I'm thinking, yeah, it's cool, but this is better. Life was good, but this is better.
But it can be better.
Yeah. Bring it on. Bring it on. No, I'm all for it. All for it. Dan. Brings us to you, my friend, in your next pick, and we've talked quite an extensive amount about Thrawn tonight, but let's continue that role with Thrawn's little lizard buddy dude, Goblin.
Yes! Right. So if for those you don't know, this is Rook. He's in original canon, the one that kills Thrawn, which is really funny to me. I don't know why. He's also a lot bigger in original canon, but no, they decide to make him small, and he's voice acted by Warwick Davis as well, which I love.
It's an inspired choice, that, isn't it?
There's lots of things to love about this guy. He's just a little dude. He's just a little dude. He's got a little electric stick, and I just want him. More aliens as well. I think that's something that's
Yeah.
a big thing for me.
Took
It's
the words
like,
right
I
out of my
love-
mouth there.
Yeah, we need more aliens in the line, and this one's a great one that would sit lovely on my little prawn shelf. Yeah,
Mm.
it's just.
And
it's
I
just-
think it'd be the first time we've ever seen a Nogri figure as well, wouldn't it? Because they played an extensive part in the expanded universe.
Oh yeah,
Um,
they're a big part. Which
Oh.
is there it is.
What's that? What we got?
That's the it's the reissue of Head to the Empire.
Oh,
Go on
it's
the bookshelves there.
Convenient. You had that to hand there, James. Very nice.
Thank you, James.
Pure
Yeah,
coincidence. For a change.
No, but it's another one of those, isn't it? Where it's like if you're not a fan of Rebels, but you're a fan of the expanded universe, it's a character that serves multiple purposes.
100%.
Okay, so hear me out.
Oh, cool.
You have a
Okay.
2-pack of Rook
Mm.
and Governor Price.
Yeah.
Oh, because that was the only thing that I was thinking about in terms of Rook is how small he is, and how kind of pathetic it might look in packaging because you couldn't really give him that many accessories.
Yeah.
So
I get
with Governor Price.
I get what you're saying, but let's not forget this is the same company that issued Wicket in a 6-inch scale box with nothing but a spear
Twice.
So you know, not that I'm complaining because like that's a great figure, but I'm stuck. I say it again. I'm stuck in that Power of the Force void. But for my money, Jawas and Ewoks and Ugnaughts always need to come in 2-packs. Doesn't matter the scale. They always need to come in 2-packs, and I always feel cheated when they don't. So, yeah, Rook in a 2-pack makes sense.
Yeah.
Or just with just with more accessories.
Yeah, maybe like a couple of different weapons, but
A little gate that wraps around his ankle.
Oh.
There's a case there for him. No, it's like you said, Dan. More aliens.
Yeah.
That's the selling point. That's a shout. To be fair.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, that's
Oh, and then we get a new Zeb as well. So.
Yeah, because I don't think they've had it. They've not got enough mileage out of that 6-inch Zeb sculpt. Gaming greats. Jedi Fallen Order. Come on, what are you doing? But no,
Flu season.
It is. It's getting to that point. I'd buy it.
Yeah, I would.
We know you would. That's why you suggested it.
You catty little bear.
There we go. Alex, that brings us to you and your next pick, my friend. And this is another one. Why is this not a figure yet? Why have we not had more figures of him? We talked about him earlier. Oh, Mutton Chops himself. That's it. Like, talk us through it, Alex, but I think he speaks for himself.
I think it's Agent Callus. It's just so obvious that we have this as a character. It's like he has such an important character arc in Rebels, going from Imperial to Rebel. I should just throw this into custom.
I can't believe I forgot to share a slide of that because I came across it while I was looking through your gallery on Facebook. I was like, oh, that would have been so relevant.
See,
what an idiot.
There we go.
Very nice.
If that's any indication of what that figure would look like in Black Series, then like sign me up. Because that was going to be my next question. Would you go for Imperial Callus, and obviously in an ideal world we'd get both, but
I think it would have to be Imperial Callus. I think once we've got the Imperial Callus, maybe in the future we can get Rebel Callus, but the Rebel one, it's what would that really be? But the Imperial one would just look fantastic with his big zappy sword stick. They could even release him as with a Zeb as a 2-pack at some point in the future as well.
Yeah.
But as long as there's a single release of him, and this is a situation where a removable helmet would work.
Yeah, it does
Yeah.
make a little bit of sense. But
He's
I quite like the idea of them doing Callus's blaster in the same way as Zeb's, where you've got the little electro attachments on the ends,
Yeah.
like the little rubber attachments. I think that'd be really cool.
Because the thing is, as well, they could then use the mold to do a Gaming Greats Imperial ISB agent for the Battlefront games.
I was just thinking that myself.
Just a different head.
Mm.
See?
It's another one. It's another one of those figures that I think where like James said earlier about with Rex, where you've got the overlays and stuff, like having that updated and so far like the best Black Series work that Hasbro are doing. Like this is another figure that just lends itself to that. And
definitely,
you know, it is one of those where you think to yourself, how the hell is this not a figure yet? But at the same time, it's like maybe it's better that we waited because now we're going to get the best version of it.
Definitely, yeah.
And I think
The current Imperial officer bodies are so good.
Yeah. In fairness, I wouldn't even be mad if they just added some overlays to like where you showed the custom one that you've done. Like if they just added it to the Death Star Trooper.
Yeah.
That could work. Obviously, outdated articulation style and all that sort of stuff, but you know, for a quick fix and that's it. For a quick fix and getting the figure out there in circulation, like just make it happen.
I'd like him to come with that little rock that he gets after he gets stranded on that moon with Zeb.
Oh,
that would be yeah.
Well, if you're gonna do that 2-pack with Zeb and him, the little heat lamp that they use, that would be awesome. I'd love that. So like little bonus, yeah.
No, it's like I said, there's multiple things you could do with it. It's a figure that we need. Like, yeah, let's just have it.
Yeah.
That brings us to my second pick, and I'm just debating which one to go for. I'm going to stick to the Mandalorian theme. Why not? In fact, both of my choices next to Mandalorian themed anyway. Spoiler alert, but we're going to go with another one. This is another. I just don't understand how this isn't a figure yet, especially given that we've got the Imperial Super Commandos in the Black Series now from the Mandalorian. Like, it just makes total sense to me to go back to the OG. The OG Imperial Super Commando himself, Mr. Gar Saxon, voiced by the late great Balin Skoll himself, Mr. Ray Stevenson. I love this look. I love this armor. To me, this embodies what the concept of Boba Fett was all the way back in 1980. You know, the idea of this Imperial Super Commando, but like looked completely different to any Stormtrooper that we'd seen before. Like, I just love I love the angle of having a group of Mandalorians that were like, do you know what? We love this Empire. This is pretty cool. Like, I just love that. The idea of that. It blends so well, and like the design of the Mandalorian armor, obviously because it was an intended decision back during the original trilogy days. Like to have the Mandalorians and the Imperials like splat together in this explosion of red and white, just I love it so much. I love the helmets. The helmets have just got such a cool look. The armor itself is it's so far, like, even though they're still Mandalorians, it's so far removed from what we know as Mandalorian armor, and it's like
removed the personality almost, isn't it?
I was literally just about to say it's like the Empire's done to the Mandalorians what it did to the clone troopers in terms of stripping its identity. Because this, like I said, it just looks like that uniformed basic Imperial armor, but they're still Mandalorians, and I don't know. There's just something I like it. I just think it's an interesting angle, and again, going back to my reasoning for choosing it as an action figure, I think it just looked bloody cool. I'm one fan. I'm a big trooper guy. You know, I love troopers, different variations of troopers. I'm really enjoying like the level of quality that we're getting with the Mandalorians. Going back to what you were saying, Alex, with that Death Watch Mandalorian body, like that was instant classic as soon as that came out. Like it's just such a good figure. Done to the same quality, I think Gar Saxon and his Imperial Commandos as well would just be so cool to see in the line. And I'm going to advocate removable helmet. I am very, very sorry, but I'm going to say it.
Fine.
I know, I'm sorry, but no, I think we need to see him, and it'd be a fitting tribute as well to Mr. Ray Stevenson himself.
Yeah.
Given that he's no longer with us and has now played two excellent characters in Star Wars. Like, yeah, just give me all the Rays in my collection.
It would serve a really nice multi-figure pack again.
Mm.
But you could go down two routes. You could do Gar Saxon in this look with his Imperial Commando, or you could do a Gar Saxon legacy thing where you see him in his Clone Wars, because that's a look I'd love to see.
Yeah.
See how removed he's become.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what made this decision like a lot. I'll not say a lot harder to make, because but when I was prepping the slides for the deck and I was like, oh, I really want to see Gar Saxon in the Black Series, and I'm bringing the images up side by side and seeing him in his Imperial armor and seeing him in his Clone Wars armor, and I was like, but I really want to pick that one, but I can't because it's not from Rebels. But I'd make the case for it anyway. Maybe that's a Clone Wars Wishlist part 2 that we need to do at some point. But no, just getting this character in the line, like, he's just such a good villain. And he's right up there with Callus in the how is this not a figure yet? So definitely going to advocate for that one. I think it is, and it's another one of those where, like you said, Dan, about doing the 2-pack with the Mando Commando. It's a pretty simple bit of reuse, because all you'd really need to change is the chest overlay.
Yeah.
You just need to sculpt in fact, you wouldn't even, looking at it, you wouldn't even need to do that, because the chest overlays are the same. They're just repainted. So you just repaint the Gar Saxon figure up as a Mandalorian Commando, and boom, there you go. Multifaceted. That's what we like to see. James, that brings us back to you and your third and final pick. Quite a relevant choice given his recent appearance in Ahsoka.
Absolutely.
Clancy Brown.
There we go.
Yeah, what a legend, man. I like to play a little game with Laura whenever we're watching a film or a cartoon, whatever it may be, and it's basically like when I turn to the screen and go, that's Clancy Brown. That's the game. the guy is just in so much fucking stuff.
Yeah.
And I love it because he delivers. He's such a good actor no matter what he's in. I mean, I don't think much of SpongeBob, but Mr. Krabs, you know, come on.
Mr. Squidward.
But I mean, I think he's such a basic character, to be honest, but he's just very interesting to me. He's somewhat like almost one of the original rebels in the respect of not necessarily the Star Wars term rebel, but almost like the actual real life standing up to a hierarchy of power term. You know, he's causing mischief long before the Empire's got a full reign over the galaxy. You know, he's very familiar with Ezra's family, and he's basically, you know, a load of people come to his town and he's like, nah, I ain't having none of this shit. I used to run this place and it was better. And
It's just that idea, isn't it, of having. Look, that's what I love about Rebels. Is that it really emphasised that whole idea of individuals rebelling rather than groups. But then
Yeah,
ultimately those individuals becoming part of rebel cells that would ultimately form a larger alliance. He's the embodiment of that for me.
he's a man that struggles. When you first see him, Ezra and Kanan are very eager to have him join the cause and fight with them against the Empire, and he's kind of had it. He can't be arsed. He doesn't want to go back to prison. He doesn't want to see things he's seen before, and you know, it's not necessarily a common occurrence with Star Wars characters. Everybody's up for a fucking fight and a bit of a challenge, and he seems to think he's had his day. And then when he comes out of it as, the new governor of Lothal at the end of Rebels and into Ahsoka, I mean, I was jumping for joy when you have that little cameo in the first episode of Ahsoka. I thought that was so inspired. That's one of the things, like, sorry, getting over a cold. One of the things, I was saying to people at Celebration and saying to my girlfriend Laura before Ahsoka aired is one of the things I would love to see is Clancy Brown play Ryder Azadi as the governor of Lothal again. And people at Celebration had sort of given me a weird look. It's like an Ahsoka series, and that's what you want to fucking see.
Yeah, because it's connecting everything together.
Yeah,
and make it. Yeah, I loved it because it was just such a. It was like when you see him for the first time and you're like, is he playing? That's Clancy Brown, but is he?
Yeah.
And then it was like, yeah, he is, and it's just like, oh, inspired. I love it. But in the same way as like you're making a pitch for him as a character and like
yeah, this is where I struggle because he wouldn't make the most interesting toy. Similar to one of the last streams we did where I was lobbying for bugger, his name's just gone right out of my head. The Jedi Master from Fallen Order.
Yeah.
Bloody hell. That's going to eat me alive for the next hour or so.
It'll come back. It'll come back.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, but that's like I said, it's what it actually ties in really well to what Collectico's mentioned in the chat, that this is what the line is missing a bit of. Some of the secondary and supporting characters to fill out a shelf, like they did in the old 3 3/4 inch days, like in the early noughties. That's what we need to see more of. That's what the line is missing, is shelf fillers and background characters. And there you go, Luke's just come to your rescue. Bosh, that's the one.
Thank you. That's the one. It's been a long day. Thank you.
But yeah, just like the Black Series needs that world building aspect as much as TVC and 3 3/4 inch does. So bring some of those more boring characters to life. I mean, we've had some pretty boring Black Series figures, haven't we? Like, thinking about it, I can't think off the top of my head, but there's got to be some out there.
Ewok Village Leia wasn't necessarily on the hit list.
I don't want to say Mon Mothma, but it's not the most thrilling figures to have. You know what I mean? She's lovely. Love that figure.
Yeah.
Love Mummy Mothma.
Yeah, an integral figure, but a really poor toy. A traffic cone. And I mean, this guy's beige and he shoots a gun from time to time, but he's got a cool hat, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hat.
Hey,
it would be a crime if there was no hat.
If we're talking about figures that bring cool hats to the table that don't necessarily make the most interesting figures or toys, then I rest my case. Like,
yes.
Come on. He's a guy with a cool hat who's got a lightsaber. What else is there? Like,
he didn't want to get sunburned. That's why he wears the hat.
But the selling point is the hat. So there's a case to be made for cool hats in the Black Series. Where there is a will, there is a way. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
But,
I just like Clancy Brown, and I want a figure of him. So
that's it.
there we are.
Make it so. Make it so. Mr. East 1000.
Oh.
Your final pick, sir. From quite a left field choice, but
I went really left field with this one.
but just to counter what James has just said about making an interesting figure, this one bloody would.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So Ketsu Onyo. She doesn't really appear in that many episodes of Rebels off the top of my head, but she would make an absolutely awesome figure. I love the design, the costume design. Just the big sword, well, not sword, but like blade thing that
It's like
she's
the
got.
vibro
Awesome.
axe, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the helmet is just bizarre, just really bizarre. I love the costume design on this one more than anything.
It's got that sort of Clone Wars Boba Fett sort of weirdness to it.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you weren't like big into Rebels, you'd probably want to pick this up just as a background character. As bad as that might sound in the defense of this, but you know, interchangeable head would be a must for this one. You know, the paint application on the helmet and the armor would just be really cool. It just pops. Yeah, I like this one. I like the look of it. That's why I chose it, because it's to be his best friend. Even though I think they have a bit of frosty beginnings, don't they, in the episode? But
and they could use the Sabine Wren body.
That's it. Yeah, easy. Wouldn't even complain at that. You know, even though the Sabine body is a little bit dated at this point. Would you mean the original Sabine or the new one?
Maybe the new one.
Yeah. I mean, the new one's a great sculpt.
Yeah.
If they went with the old sculpt, I wouldn't even be that. Maybe sort out the janky legs a bit on the old one, but no. There'd be ways that they could do it, and I'd lap it up.
Looking at it now and not seeing the character for a while, it's got quite the Haxian Brood vibe. Again, from Jedi Fallen Order going forward.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bounty hunters that, you know, jump out of random places and attack you. They're very similar in design.
Also reminds me of some of the mercenaries. I forget the actual character names, but the troopers in the employ of Morgan Elsbeth on Caladan. In Ahsoka. Very similar in terms of that design, like with the tubes coming from the helmet and like the narrow visor and stuff. It's just got that sort of aesthetic to it as well. It's just one of those figures that it's just a cool bounty hunter type.
That's it.
Mercenary underworld character that we don't see enough of.
And for like toy photography, a great sort of scene filler character as well.
Yeah, like in terms of doing like, you know, photography with this, you could get some really cool shots with, you know, her and Sabine.
Yeah.
Kind of like standoff poses and things, and it's just a fun one. I think it would be a fun one. I'm struggling to like sell it, but it's just fun.
It just looks cool.
Sometimes
that's the only selling point you need.
Yeah.
Is that it just looks cool.
Yeah.
That's it. That's a case I've made multiple times over. Is like when it comes to that whole having connection to a character versus a character just looking cool. Like 9 times out of 10, I will only pick up a character if I'm connected to it. Be it like if I've enjoyed their appearance in a show or whatever. Like that's one of the key factors of me picking up the figure. But at the same time, and I've said it before, I'm not overly familiar with characters from games such as Knights of the Old Republic and certain elements of the EU, but the figures and the characters look cool enough that I'm like, I just want to get that on my shelf. That's sometimes all you need.
Yeah.
And this figure falls perfectly into that category.
I think for me as well was the fact that when the original 3 3/4 inch line of figs were out, this was one that I was expecting them to do, but they didn't. They did the what was it? The Imperial Cadet uniform. They did that one, but they didn't do this. Like, what's with that? Like, Vizargo as well. Like in 3 3/4 inch, we got Vizargo.
Yeah, and his IG droid.
Yeah, but we didn't get that. Like this. This would have been just ideal for that line, but they didn't do it. So to sit in Black Series would just be really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it would.
Very polar opposites, thinking back to when the Rebels line first came out. Wasn't a great time for Star Wars figures, really, was it?
Not really.
No.
No.
Those were the true dark times. Definitely. I remember that because it was a weird time as well, because not only had you got the 5POA stuff, which over the years got gradually better, especially in terms of the sculpt and stuff, and like painted details. Like 5POA eventually got pretty good by the end. But when it first kicked off, like, man, I remember walking into Disney Store and finding some of those Rebels figures and thinking, is this what we've been reduced to? Like, this is the quality.
I stopped collecting for a while because of that.
Yeah. To the point where even the character selection wasn't necessarily there. I remember picking up that Darth Sidious and Yoda mission series pack and thinking, I've bought this because it's a Star Wars figure, and I've not bought one in ages because I'm so disillusioned by what we've got, but I want that fix. And I just remember picking it up and being like, this is absolute shit.
Rumor has it there's still a derelict Toys R Us out there somewhere with a Wookiee 2 figure pack on the floor.
Hey, don't knock that set. Don't knock that set. That was a better example. That was cool. It was so weird, but so cool.
Maybe a little bit mass produced.
Maybe a little bit. But it was a weird time because, like I said, not only did you have that 5POA stuff that was awful in terms of general quality, but then the super articulated stuff wasn't exactly doing it either. And it was just like that. We really felt like we were in a hole when that stuff was out. Like it was a struggle to. I remember the highlight of that sort of time being the Stormtrooper the Snowtrooper Commander in the 3 3/4 inch Black Series, and feeling like if this is the best that's available, like we're in a situation here. So I'm glad that things got better. Definitely glad that things got better. But yeah, weird time like that, because I associated Rebels with that time of being disillusioned as a collector. So to see it come full circle now and be like, yep, you know, these Rebels characters actually, to see them in super articulated 6-inch format, yeah, get in my basket. Alex, that brings us to your third and final choice, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I might be. No, I'm not. James has been, so it's now time to... Yeah, it's not. I always do this. I forget which order we've been in. But yeah, Alex, your third and final choice, and I am so... You've already told me the reasoning behind it, but I'm so keen to hear it again, because it's one that I didn't even think of when you suggested it and when you pitched it, and now I'm like, makes total sense. The man himself.
Okay, so it's basically Chancellor Palpatine. So you get this figure, and then you get a Chancellor Palpatine sometime later. I think it just makes sense. Now, when it comes to Rebels, this seed is key for like Ezra's like entire arc. So like as part of like an action figure story, he's got to be there, because this is the conclusion of Ezra's entire life arc. Him being drawn into his parents by Palpatine, who looks nice and friendly. It just, to me, it makes sense. And also then you've got the opportunity to bring out an episode 3 or episode 2 Chancellor Palpatine.
Definitely.
Would be... Oh, sorry.
No, go on, Dan. You're all right.
I was going to say my question would be, are we holocomming it? Is it going to be,
I was thinking that myself.
kind of like translucent?
My thinking would be not to make it some like translucent, but
Okay, that's cool.
if they then wanted to do something along those lines, the mold would be there.
Yeah. Reuse.
Multifaceted.
But in that sense, this is definitely. I like that idea of it's. You've got this. Because this is so far removed from what we've seen of Palpatine previously. I know, obviously, throughout the prequels, he plays this, innocent old man. But there's something almost unsettling about seeing Palpatine in this white and gold, almost holy appearance.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's very unsettling. More so than any of Palpatine's other appearances, and I think like this, in terms of that creepiness and that uncertain vibe.
Completely,
This to me is more frightening than undead Palpatine in Rise of Skywalker. It's just so. It's like, who are you trying to kid, you creepy old nonce? Like, you know? Like, it's like there's just, like I said, that golden white. It's just it's so far removed from what we know.
and seeing what Collector Cove has put with the 2-pack with a Royal Guard, there you go.
Absolutely, but at the same time, like you said as well, in terms of getting a prequel era Palpatine out there as well, be an easy one to do, because you could quite easily issue this one with a softer plastic overlay for the robe.
That's all it needs is a generic body, just with a plastic overlay that can be swapped out.
That's it, and switch that out. You could even get away with repainting the arms. Like it's a simple switch. It's a simple bit of reuse, and again, it offers that multi-purpose.
In fact, the shape of the outfit could work exactly with the episode 3 at the start of episode 3.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking. It's almost identical, isn't it? Yeah, that'd definitely work. And I think this is a long overdue figure as well. Like the fact that we haven't got, I'll say, innocent Palpatine in the Black Series yet. We haven't got Senator or Chancellor Palpatine. Like James said, doesn't necessarily make the most interesting toy, but it's a pivotal character that we definitely need represented on the shelf. So, and I like I said, I just like this because it's just an unusual and unexpected look for him.
Yeah.
See, this is very conflicting for me because I'd love this figure, but I'm a stickler for accuracy, and I fucking hate it half the time because it's like I know he's a hologram in this scene. I know he's a hologram, but I don't want one of them dirty blue holocom figures. Yeah. I got the Ezra one from Ahsoka quite recently. There's just something fucking weird about them. They're cool in what they do, but there's just something wrong about them.
Could they do it in the same sort of way as the Jedi Spirits, so that it's sort of semi-translucent?
Oh yeah.
Instead?
Oh yeah, that would add something. Yeah.
Yeah. Just add that little extra bit of depth. Like it offered, like instead of just being old man dressed as the Pope.
Yeah.
It'd be semi-translucent, part ghost man dressed as the Pope.
Trying to sell it as not a nonce, it's proving very difficult. I'm just going to fucking say it.
Well, he is, isn't it? Come on.
Yeah,
he's a bloody groomer.
It's very scary though when the temple's collapsing and as the rocks fall through the hologram, it's almost like something from one of the Conjuring films, and it's like and it's the real versions there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It is like it for my money, it's more frightening than Sidious is in Rise of Skywalker because it's just so unsettling and just nonsense. It's almost it's effectively the the one that The one that you don't invite to the barbecue.
Come on, in that scene, he's literally saying, "Come into the back of my van. I've got your parents."
Here's the temple I specifically rented apart. Come and have a look.
I
But it
did
is-
this for you, bad boy.
But it is, like I said, it is. If I'm not mistaken, it is essentially the first time we've ever seen that facade drop. Like,
Yeah.
Other than in Revenge of the Sith, where he's confronted by the Jedi and Mace Windu and stuff, and he's still playing the Chancellor upon his confrontation, but then eventually he's like, okay, game's up. Like it's the first time we see that transition from quiet, subdued
Well-mannered.
Chancellor
Yeah.
to evil mastermind of this whole entire operation. So it is. I just love it. I love it. It's such a cool
Yeah.
choice. It's such a cool choice, and I'd be all over it. Yeah, absolutely, really good. Just 'cause I'm conscious of time, we'll wrap things up with my final pick. I have gone Mandalorian themed once again. I apologise, but I think what they're doing, like I said, Hasbro with the Black Series and with Mandalorian figures in particular at the moment, and this one, there's a reason for this choice. So even though again, not a great deal of connection to the character, this is Ursa Wren, the mother of Sabine. This character design takes me all the way back to 2007. And if I'm not mistaken, we obviously haven't had this figure before, but we've had one that's sort of similar, and I forget her name, but she just reminds me of this figure in a few ways, and in terms of deco and appearance, and just the fact that I think more female Mandalorians in any scale are needed. Like there's something cool about this, and like I said, color scheme wise, it's not a blue Mando, it's yellow and grey and black and all that sort of cool stuff. So for me, it's just, and I think she's got a bloody cool helmet as well. Like,
Yeah.
you don't see it in this
man.
picture, and it was really, really hard to try and find an high-res copy, but her helmet's got those little flicks up the side, and it's got this like almost very ornate, in the same way that you picked Fen Rao for that reason, James, is that it's a different look. I don't know, it's just cool. I just think as a character, like I'm not bothered about a removable helmet or an interchangeable head. Just give me one with the helmet in place permanently. That's absolutely fine with me. But yeah, it's just the visual appeal of this character is there for me. It's like I said, the yellows and the flashes and the design of the armor, all those colors. Like it's very visually appealing to me, and yeah, I'm all for it. And I think just to get Mandalorians from different eras of Star Wars as well is something that's been criminally underserved in Black Series. There's this heavy focus on the Mandalorian itself and the Mandos from that show. But let's get some out in other areas of the franchise. Let's see Mandalorians that I can put on my Clone Wars shelf. Let's see Mandos that I can put with my Rebels figures and so on and so forth. I want to see
ultimate, please.
That's it, yeah. Or the Indomitable. Give us the Fett Legacy Evolution set in 6-inch, cowards. Make that happen.
Yes.
I'm also thinking like she's an important character as part of Sabine's journey. So it makes sense for the action figure to be out there as part of that narrative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's it. That's one of the things that I'm really excited for 3 3/4-inch collectors with regards to what Steve Evans said recently about building stories, and when it comes to putting collections together, it's not just this random ensemble of different figures. It's a journey, it's a story, it's a scene, it's a story in your collection. Like I love that idea. And I think when we were at MCM, Alex, I think Chris Rife mentioned it briefly as well, that he said he was very keen to bring that story aspect and that story element into Black Series as well.
Yeah, I'm completely behind that. I think it's what evolves a toy line as well.
Mm.
It's not just, like you say, a group of characters. There's a narrative between why these characters are together.
Yeah, definitely. And just going back to my previous pick as well, it makes sense to put it out at the same time as Gar Saxon. So you've got that little story interweaving going on as well, with those two
Yeah.
characters being available at the same time. So yeah.
What makes me very excited in regards to this figure, Steve, or the possibility of it actually becoming a reality, is that the Armor's Forge playset comes with 3 loose Mandalorian helmets, and one of them is, incredibly close
Yeah.
to the design of Ursa Wren or one of a clan.
I had not
And
seen that. I had not made that connection.
it just makes you think that that's Hasbro saying, yeah, we're thinking,
Yeah.
it's on our minds, because they could have just painted it any random color, but it's specifically like silver and yellow. That it's in the loft because I haven't got room for it anyway yet. But
Yeah.
so otherwise, I'd just go and grab it real quick. But if I can find a picture of it somewhere, I'll send it to the group chat later. But
nice. Planting
it's
that
not a
seed.
hard one for them to make, is it? Let's be honest.
And like I said, like I mentioned with Gar Saxon as well, it opens up the door for a Clone Wars version.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Because I had completely forgotten that Ursa popped up in season 7 of the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
so
they could do a one, have a go at doing a nice soft goods poncho and do the version from Obadiah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be cool. And again, just offering up that something a little bit different in that visual realm of the Mandalorians. Like I don't think we've got a Mandalorian in a poncho yet. So yeah, all for that. Different versions of different Mandos from different eras of Star Wars. Just hook it up to my veins, man. I'm here for it.
I'm gonna also say on my side, I keep saying about multi-figure packs. Do one with and Tristan.
Yeah.
Tristan as
Clan
well.
Ren. Just put Clan Ren out there. I think somebody actually made a case for that in the chat earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, get it out there. I'd love it. I think it could complementing multi-packs of like Gar Saxon and the Imperial Mandos, and then Clan Ren. Oh yeah, complement everything nicely. Story. Love it.
Perfection.
That's it. So yeah, I think we've all made some solid choices. I would buy every single one. Thanks for coming. No, some solid picks, guys. Like I said, I love getting together for these wishlist streams because I love putting together character selections based not just on what makes a good figure, but getting certain characters into circulation as well and getting them represented on the shelf, and the making a case for character connection. Like that's always important.
Yeah.
So I love that, and I feel like we always bring something different to the table with respect to that. I think like I said, I am a little bit cautious of the time, so I will let you guys get off and enjoy the rest of your evening. But Alex, once again, my friend, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you with us. And talking about your toy photography process and your history of customization and all that sort of stuff. It's been a really good chat. Once
Thank
again,
you for having me on.
No worries at all. It's been a pleasure. Once again, just for those who may be watching who aren't familiar with your work and want to come and check you out, whereabouts online can they find you?
Find me on Instagram, Mr. Stormtrooper Davis. That'll be my main point. And also, don't forget to go to Star Action Figures and get your art cards.
Yes. Absolutely. I'm going to make a case for those, definitely. They are absolutely fantastic. Hopefully the first of many. Like I said, we were talking about it earlier, this isn't the first time that you've run a promotion with Star Action Figures. Those first cards, I think, Dan, you can't see them particularly well.
Bane's hiding them,
but yeah, they're up there.
They're just in the corner there.
Yep. and I've got mine framed in the doorway as well as you walk in. I've got like we were talking about that Anakin poster. Like that is
Yeah.
just such a
So
perfect
good.
shot. It's absolutely fantastic.
My favorite one of these is actually the Luke Skywalker facing off against the Dark Troopers. For me, that one does it for me.
I like the Bad Batch one.
Yeah. It'd be nice to be able to do another wave of those. It'd be nice to do another wave of these cards as well. So
yeah, I've got the I think it's the Journey to the Last Jedi, because that's I know Dan's a bit of a trading card shill. But I've not really dabbled. I've not seriously dabbled in trading cards since the Journey to the Last Jedi Topps campaign. But I've got a full album for that, and I would love to do something similar with these.
Yeah.
So I really hope it goes well, because the opportunity there to have another album of cards, and maybe albums are a thing that might.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pitch that. Make a case for that. Definitely.
Yeah.
But no, I love it. I love the collectability. I love like I said, the photos are amazing. Yeah, guys, if you haven't already, stick in some orders with Star Action Figures and get your hands on some of these, because they are phenomenal. Like I said, that's going to wrap up this Star Wars Rebels Black Series Wishlist Toy Talk and Live Chat. Thank you, as always, Dan and James, for joining us as well. Anything in the pipeline content-wise for you guys? I know, James, you mentioned towards year's end you're hoping to get a collection tour out there. How's that coming along?
Slowly, because it only exists with. I do apologise. I don't.
So we've killed him off. He's like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
Well, that made me think of C-3PO from The Rise of Skywalker. It only exists within my memory now. Yeah, I've got a maths exam in 3 weeks. When I'm supposed to be off work, I'm still expected to go into college for that, so that's going to be fun. But I'll try and work it around that if I'm, not immensely depressed, depending upon the result. But
I'm sure you'll do fine, mate. I'm sure you'll do fine.
I fucking hate maths, mate. I can spend money and I can watch numbers go out of my account. Anything else? Nah, not interested.
No, we anticipate it greatly regardless, because your last one were absolutely banging. Dan, what about you, content-wise? Anything on the horizon?
There's so much content going on here. I've got things in my edit that I need to get edited. I got videos on the channel that are doing quite well. It's all. I don't want to say too much because I don't like to overpromise. But things are coming. They're coming out. Am I going to promote them on socials? Probably.
Absolutely
at some
not.
point, a week after it's out. Yeah.
No, you never overpromise, Dan, but you always overdeliver. So again,
stop it, you little spoozy boy.
Well, I've got to, got to keep you sweet, because we've got to keep you coming back.
I'll keep coming. Don't worry.
Need to keep you in employment with them juicy intros. In terms of stuff from me, there's some new reviews up on the channel. It's been a while, but I'm trying to pump them back out best I can. Got a backlog of figures that I've purchased over the last few months that I'm trying to get through, so there's plenty more on the way. So yeah, stay tuned to me, stay tuned to James, stay tuned to Dan, and make sure you go and check out Alex's socials for all his epic toy photography, and we will see you all on the next one. This is likely to be our last stream of the year, so if we don't see you before, have a very, very Merry Christmas, and we'll see you all for another stream in 2025. So until then, as always, keep collecting, and may the Force be with you.